Every week, one 8-hour video will be uploaded. All novels uploaded here are completed, so you will get a full story without searching or waiting. I have listened to the translated version on web, and there are no major problems with translation. If you want Chinese novel translated, give me the original name of the novel and I will respond to your request as soon as possible. Please make sure your request is on the latest video. If you hear this "u" sound in the novel, it means either question mark or some space is left, like getting materials or experience gain there more but not shown. If after a name is used and after there is silence, it means exclamation marks were used as in shock. I don't know if this will happen in recorded one, but it happened in web version. Chapter 107. When Qing's ruthlessness reminded Chun Bo of Lin Mengyao. You can refuse if you think it's inappropriate, and you have the right to break off ties. But you insist on having your cake and eating it too, wanting everything. When things are exposed, you disregard all sentiment, only thinking of putting the other party to death. Seeing Wen Qing at this moment, Chun Bo's anger flared. However, Wen Qing still looked self-righteous, as if she hadn't done anything wrong. Chun Bo, I don't like what you're saying. What did I do to him? He brutally injured my boyfriend, and I was the one who begged Jungu not to call the police. If the police were called, Yang Hong would be getting off easy with administrative detention. If it were criminal detention, his life would be over. If it weren't for the fact that we were classmates and friends, I'd wish I could send him to jail. My Jungu was beaten so badly. It breaks my heart. Since you have a boyfriend, why were you still leading me on? How dare you accept such expensive gifts from me? And you told me you hadn't even held a boy's hand. Yang Hong angrily fired off a triple question. But hearing this, it was simply a joke to Wen Qing. Please, I always thought we only had the purest friendship. I never knew you had those kinds of thoughts about me. If I had known, I definitely wouldn't have interacted with you. I was even afraid Jungu would misunderstand our relationship. You can think with your butt and know we're absolutely impossible. You're not unaware of my quality of life. Can you afford the money I spend on beauty treatments, shopping, and travel every month? If I were with you, wouldn't my quality of life plummet? When Wen Qing said this, Chun Bo couldn't listen anymore. From high school, Yang Hong's admiration for her was already common knowledge. Didn't know Yang Hong had feelings for her? Who are you kidding? And her quality of life plummeting? If you were a rich young lady, that would be one thing. But Chun Bo knew Wen Qing's family background was even worse than Yang Hong's. She was clearly fishing, but insisted on making it sound so righteous. Trying to create a persona of a refined beauty? Pa, did you earn a single penny yourself? Oh no, it should be said that every penny she had was earned from men. Bitch. All right, consider me blind. The Hermes bag I gave you tonight is worth 30,000. Consider it your boyfriend's medical expenses. From now on, you and I are completely done. Yang Hong's eyes were bloodshot, his tone icy. I don't have the final say on this. It's all up to my Jungu. Only if my Jungu says you can go, can you go? Wen Qing smiled charmingly as she returned to the bandaged youth. So you think your broken bag is worth 30,000? But you busted my head. You think 30,000 will settle it? You're dreaming. The bandaged youth arrogantly taunted. You damn well just got a scratch. What are you pretending for? It's just a band-aid situation. 3,000 is already too much.
Yang Hong roared.
Damn you. Still daring to yell. Haven't had enough of a beating yet, have you? One of the very muscular youths pointed at Yang Hong and threatened him. Clearly, the injuries on Yang Hong's face were from him. Chun Bo silently noted this down. Then how much do you want? Chun Bo asked directly. The bandaged youth held up 3 fingers, giving Chun Bo and Yang Hong a sinister smile. 30. What the hell? 300,000. Why don't you just rob us? Yang Hong's eyes bulged in shock. Don't say we don't have 300,000. Even if we did, we wouldn't give it to you. You should just call the police. I'll accept whatever the police say we owe. The bandaged youth seemed to have anticipated Yang Hong's reaction. Looking at Chun Bo confidently, do you know why I called you here? It's to give you enough time to raise money. If we don't receive the medical expenses before midnight tonight, I'll put a hole in his head too. If you understand, Hurry up and raise the money. Don't waste time. You. Yang Hong wanted to say something else, but Chun Bo stopped him. All right, 300,000 then. Chun Bo then gave Zhang Jingwen a look. Zhang Jingwen understood instantly. She had been wondering why Chun Bo brought her to this situation. Only at this moment did she realize that Chun Bo wanted her to act as his secretary and accountant. Zhang Jingwen pulled out her phone, scanned the bandaged youth's QR code, and transferred the money. The action was seamless. No hesitation, no questioning. Brother Bo, 300,000 has been transferred. Yang Hong was stunned. It was then that he noticed the beautiful woman standing behind Chun Bo. Wen Qing instantly paled in comparison to her. Wen Qing and the few youths with her didn't expect Chun Bo to be so compliant. 300,000 just like that. At this moment they regretted it. If they had known Chun Bo was rich and such a pushover, they would have asked for 500,000. Hee. I didn't expect your brother to be so sensible. Consider this a lesson for you. Don't be so impulsive next time, you loser. The bandaged youth grinned, looking at the balance on his phone, and didn't forget to provoke Yang Hong before leaving. Stop. Did I say you could leave? Chun Bo blocked the doorway, cutting off their path, his aura suddenly becoming sharp. The muscular youth scoffed dismissively. Oh, this kid's got some guts. Not letting us leave, is he trying to? Slap. Chun Bo backhanded him across the face. Everyone was stunned except for Zhang Jingwen. They had no idea Chun Bo would suddenly strike. Only Zhang Jingwen, who had witnessed Chun Bo fight 20 men, knew from the start that Chun Bo would definitely not let this go. The bandaged youth and his two companions stared at Chun Bo in astonishment, as if Chun Bo had triggered an untouchable monster. What the hell? Do you know who he is? You dare to lay a hand on him? Brother, I advise you to quickly kneel and apologize to Yuan Chao. Believe me, this is absolutely for your own good. Yuan Chao has practiced martial arts since childhood and has become a martial artist. He can definitely punch the shit out of you. Chun Bo was unfazed by the youth's advice, a sly smile spreading across his face. Martial artist? If this Yuan Chao was the son of some high-ranking leader, Chun Bo might have weighed his options. But the other party was just a martial artist. Chun Bo wasn't flustered at all. The system had already boosted his basic attributes beyond the normal human range and rewarded him with a bunch of messy skills. He knew this world wasn't that simple. He didn't expect to encounter a legendary martial artist here tonight, and he wanted to experience a martial artist's strength. So, slap. Another backhand slap. The man named Yuan Chao let out a beastly roar, his expression gradually becoming ferocious. What the hell? This is a martial artist? Getting hit and not knowing how to fight back? Are all these martial artists' brains not quite right? Go to hell. I'll kill you. Yuan Chao swung his fist, as big as a sandbag, violently towards Chun Bo. The punch hadn't arrived, but the wind from it already had. It had to be said, the strength Yuan Chao displayed was something Chun Bo had never seen before. However, in the next second, something that stunned everyone happened. Chun Bo simply extended his palm and easily parried Yuan Chao's fierce punch. It looked as simple as a teenager catching a soft sandbag. Chapter 108. Yuan Chao hadn't even had time to be surprised. Slap, slap. Two more hard backhanded slaps landed fiercely on his face. Earlier, not knowing he was a martial artist, Chun Bo had only used 20% of his strength. Although extremely insulting, the damage was not great. But with those two slaps just now, Chun Bo used 50% of his strength. Not only were they extremely defiling, but the damage was also immense. After two slaps, Yuan Chao's cheeks were imprinted with two scarlet palm prints. Yuan Chao's head was also ringing from the slaps, and for a moment, he couldn't tell which way was north, south, east, or west. His steps were unsteady, staggering and swaying. His companions were even more stunned. They didn't know what a martial artist was, but as Yuan Chao's playmates, they had often heard him brag about how strong he was. And in fact, Yuan Chao was indeed very capable in a fight. They had personally seen Yuan Chao easily take down 10 burly men by himself and bend a utility pole with one punch. He could leap over 2 meters with a powerful jump. His physical strength and athletic reflexes far surpassed ordinary people's. He was the martial arts expert among them, having never met an opponent. Yet, such an awesome Yuan Chao's full-strength punch was blocked by Chun Bo with a single hand. What surprised them even more was that Chun Bo actually made Yuan Chao dizzy with 2 big slaps. Could this handsome man in front of them also be a martial artist? And his strength was even above Yuan Chao's? I'll pay for your medical expenses. But shouldn't we settle the score for you injuring my friend? Looking at Chun Bo, who had blocked Yuan Chao's punch, the bandaged youth felt a bit apprehensive. How about we pay him some medical expenses too? We're willing to compensate him. Compensate him 100,000. We slapped him 10 times in total, 10,000 yuan per slap. You won't lose out. He intended to use money to smooth things over. Although these slaps were from Yuan Chao, and the force might have been quite strong, 10,000 yuan per slap, the bandaged youth felt that was the most he could offer. All right, 10,000 yuan per slap, is it? The bandaged youth was overjoyed, thinking Chun Bo had agreed to his compensation plan. Anyway, he earned 300,000 tonight, so paying them 100,000 yuan was no big deal. However, the next second, Chun Bo looked at Zhang Jingwen. Transfer another 1 million to him, plus the 10 slaps they originally owed. That's a total of 110 slaps. After we finish, we'll continue buying. The bandaged youth was once again dumbfounded. He wondered if this person had too much money to spend or if there was something seriously wrong with his brain. My intention was for me to compensate you 100,000, not for you to slap us for 10,000 yuan per slap. Soon, the bandaged youth was overjoyed again. He wouldn't lose out with 10,000 yuan per slap, so what if he got slapped 100 times? As long as this guy was willing to pay, as long as he didn't die from the slaps, he would let him slap him to death. He was going to achieve financial freedom tonight. It's a deal, you. Slap. Before the bandaged youth could finish speaking, Chun Bo's big slap had already landed fiercely on his face. The ideal was plump, but reality was bony. The bandaged youth, who had just been thinking of achieving financial freedom by being slapped by Chun Bo, regretted it. With this slap, Chun Bo used 30% of his strength. The moment the palm landed on the bandaged youth, he instantly lost his balance, spinning 720 degrees like a top before landing heavily on the sofa in the private room. The world spun and he saw stars. Don't play dead. There are still 109 slaps left. Chun Bo looked coldly at the bandaged youth slumped on the sofa. The bandaged youth was clearly dizzy and disoriented, but his mind was incredibly clear. When people encounter danger, they secrete adrenaline frantically, putting their minds into an excited state. It could be said that the bandaged youth had never been as clear-headed as he was today. If Chun Bo slapped him again, he could go directly to meet his great-grandmother. What good would achieving financial freedom be then? He trembled and retreated, curling up on the sofa, looking at Chun Bo with frightened eyes. Brother, big brother, I'll return the 300,000 to you. Your friend smashed my head, and you slapped me. Let's call it even. Okay. When will vengeance end? Who are you looking down on? I've never taken back money I've given out. Even if you don't want to earn money, you should at least let me slap you 10 times. Chun Bo bared his teeth, showing a sinister smile. Yang Hong was shocked. Was this really Chun Bo? When did he become so domineering? It was simply too satisfying. Although it was very satisfying, Yang Hong was also worried that Chun Bo would cause an irreversible mess. So he tugged on Chun Bo's clothes. Bo! He originally wanted to call him Bozy, as usual, but Yang Hong instinctively felt it was inappropriate in this situation. Old Chen, why don't we just take the money back and forget about it? I smashed his head, and you slapped him. We're both winners, we earned. Damn. So this was how Yang Hong understood the meaning of win-win. But Chun Bo thought Yang Hong's words made a lot of sense, and half of the anger in his heart extinguished. He had originally wanted them to experience the pain of the Tai Wei divine needles, but he didn't expect there to be a martial artist among them. After witnessing his strength, they immediately cowered. Since they had already cowered, He should uphold the spirit of not letting go when in the right. Not only do I want a win-win, I want a triple win. Who slapped you just now? You slap him back. That's not very good. If you really want a triple win, why not just get the 300,000 back? We not only smashed his head, but we also slapped him, and in the end, we didn't pay a single cent. That's a definite triple win. In Yang Hong's eyes, 300,000 was far more worthwhile than slapping him back. That was 300,000. Chun Bo thought about it. Yang Hong's words were not without reason. So he smiled slyly. Since it's already a triple win, why not make it a quadruple win? Get the money back, and then return the slaps. The bandaged youth, still curled up on the sofa, had his eyes wide open. Listen, are these human words? Damn it, I got my head smashed, was slapped hard more than once, and didn't even get a single benefit. Is this how you bully people? But the bandaged youth dared not be angry or speak. With that slap just now, he had deeply realized. None of them were a match for Chun Bo. Chun Bo was also a ruthless person. He would never waste time talking nonsense with them when he could act. At this moment, he really wanted to call the police. Damn you! I, a dignified chi-gathering realm triple-stage expert. If I don't kill you today, I'm not Yuan Chao, the rushing thunder hand. After being slapped twice by Chun Bo and entering a dazed state, Yuan Chao finally sobered up. Cough! He roared, his muscles suddenly bulging, and his clothes instantly ripped to shreds, scattering dust and debris. Only his underwear remained. Ah! When Qing and Fong Yingying in the private room shrieked, simultaneously covering their eyes. This scene was too eye-searing. Chi-gathering realm triple stage? Sounds very powerful. After his clothes burst, Yuan Chao revealed a body of shiny, solid muscles, his pale muscles reflecting a shimmering glow under the lights. Chapter 109. Facing a Chi-gathering third-stage expert, Chun Bo was not flustered in the slightest. He didn't know what stage his current strength was at. However, the Qilin Star Step and Pangu Fist technique obtained through the system lottery were both divine-level skills. The Qilin Star Step's movement technique was as elusive as a ghost, allowing one to walk in the rain without getting a single drop on them. Dodging Yuan Chao's attacks was as simple as breathing. Although he hadn't used the Pangu Fist technique, according to the system's introduction, this fist technique possessed the power to split heaven and earth, killing gods if they appeared and Buddhas if they appeared. With these two divine-level skills, he couldn't possibly fail to defeat even a Chi-gathering third-stage expert, right? Too handsome to last 3 seconds. Slap! Slap! Too crisp, loud slaps rang out. That's right, just as Yuan Chao, the thunderous hand, struck a pose, Chun Bo sent him flying with 2 powerful slaps. This wasn't because Yuan Chao was weak. After all, a Chi-gathering third-stage expert sounded quite intimidating. Therefore, Chun Bo increased his strength to 80%. After all, it was his first time fighting a so-called martial artist, and Chun Bo didn't dare use his full power. If he really killed him, the trouble would be immense. But he didn't expect the Chi-gathering third-stage expert to be so vulnerable after his clothes were torn, directly fainting after being slapped away. It seems his own strength, even without using the divine-level skills obtained from the system lottery, had already surpassed the Chi-gathering third stage. Ching, didn't you say this classmate of yours was just a delivery driver? He doesn't look like it at all. He gives away 300,000 without a second thought, and he's so good at fighting. Are delivery drivers really that competitive now? He's so handsome. Fong Yingying's bright eyes stared unblinkingly at Chun Bo, her admiration overcoming the fear in her heart. Heh. When Qing gave 2 dry, blank laughs. I don't know either. Although when Qing also found Chun Bo's transformation shocking, she still felt that Chun Bo couldn't compare to her boyfriend. What good were handsomeness and fighting ability? In this materialistic society, money was king. Let alone that the bandaged youth wasn't as handsome as Chun Bo. Even if he were a pot-bellied man with a receding hairline, when Qing would unhesitatingly choose the richer one. That was her boyfriend, who drove a Mercedes-Benz G-Class. Her boyfriend insisting that Yang Hong pay for medical expenses was simply to teach Yang Hong a lesson. She believed that demanding the 300,000 was not her boyfriend's original intention. As for Yang Hong, who had pursued her for many years, he was at most a promising potential stock. Many self-proclaimed geniuses fail during their entrepreneurial journey. It was still uncertain whether Yang Hong would ultimately become rich. Yang Hong also looked shocked. When did this adopted brother, who grew up with him, skipped classes with him, watched movies with him, and got beaten up with him, become so formidable? Seeing Chun Bo's 2 powerful slaps send the over 150-pound Yuan Chao flying, the few young men were so astonished their jaws almost dropped. The events of tonight had completely exceeded their expectations. Yuan Chao, who had always boasted about being a martial artist, suddenly tore his shirt after being humiliated by Chun Bo, revealing muscles like steel. They had thought that Yuan Chao, as the one responsible for their combat strength, would finally display his martial artist's power. However, the seemingly fierce Yuan Chao was slapped twice by Chun Bo. Not only was he slapped flying, but he also fainted. Chi-gathering third-stage expert, are you here to be a comedian? Seeing this, the bandaged youth promptly returned the 300,000 he had received to Zhang Jingwen. Brother, I'm returning the money to you. We were blind and offended you greatly. I apologize to you and your brother here, and I hope you can overlook our minor transgression. Chun Bo thought for a moment. Yang Hong had busted the other person's head. The slaps had been returned. The compensation money had been recovered in full, and the Chi-gathering third-stage expert had been knocked unconscious. This was clearly a 4-way win. It was time to show mercy where it was due, and Chun Bo's anger had mostly subsided. But Wen Qing was not having it. Before Chun Bo could speak, Wen Qing, with an unforgiving expression, pointed at Chun Bo and cursed angrily. Chun Bo, was it wrong for Yang Hong to bust my boyfriend's head and for him to demand medical expenses? Is being good at fighting so amazing? This is a society governed by law. If you dare to touch a single hair on my boyfriend again, I'll call the police immediately. Don't say I didn't consider our old classmates' friendship then. Chun Bo smiled and shook his head, his eyes filled with disdain and contempt. Compared to the Chi-gathering third-stage expert and the bandaged youth, the one Chun Bo most wanted to deal with was this vain, heartless woman who disregarded old friendships. Old Yang, what do you say we do? Wen Qing was the woman Yang Hong had admired for several years, so Chun Bo somewhat respected Yang Hong's wishes.
Yang Hong sighed helplessly.
Let them go. It's all my fault for being blind and getting deceived. I deserve it. But today, I've finally seen her true colors. Being sarcastically retorted by Yang Hong, the lickspittle he had been for 6 years, Wen Qing's pride began to crumble. We're letting you off. If we really wanted to pursue this, we could send you to the detention center tonight. You 2 poor losers.
Bang!
The private room door was violently pushed open. Holy crap! I really can't listen to this anymore. Someone actually dares to call President Bo a poor loser. A swaggering young man, a cigarette dangling from his lips, dressed in designer clothes, wearing a $1 million Patek Philippe watch and black sunglasses, burst in. Following behind him were 7 or 8 other young men, equally adorned with an air of wealth. Lu Jingheng wasn't lying to us. President Bo really is a young man, looks even younger than me. Age isn't important. What I admire is President Bo's outrageously generous hand, which always amazes me. Hello, President Bo. Hello, President Bo. Hello, President Bo. The moment these young men entered, they all respectfully greeted, Hello, President Bo. These were all President Bo's little fans from that rich second-generation group. Upon learning that Chun Bo was handling some private matters at Zindui KTV tonight, they immediately came to Zindui KTV on their own accord. Their purpose was to catch a glimpse of the legendary President Bo's heroic demeanor. If they had a chance to attach themselves to a prominent figure like President Bo, that would be even better. Becoming friends with a super-rich magnate like President Bo would undoubtedly greatly assist their family businesses. When they arrived, Chun Bo had already entered the private room. Helplessly, they could only wait outside the door, constantly monitoring the movements inside the private room. Originally, they thought that when President Bo needed them, they would be able to rush in and back him up immediately. Unexpectedly, President Bo was not only outrageously generous but also incredibly strong in combat. In just a short while, he had everyone in the private room completely subdued. This increased these little fans' reverence for President Bo even further. When he heard Wenqing, that woman, speak disrespectfully to President Bo, the leading young man in sunglasses could no longer hold back. Someone in this world actually dared to call President Bo a poor loser. He wanted to see who that person was. Thus, the scene of him breaking in. President Bo, my name is Yi Hao, you can call me Little Yi. I heard someone offended you. I'm here to see which ungrateful bastard dares to offend our President Bo. Are they tired of living? Chapter 110. Damn your grandma. The idiot who dared to offend President Bo wouldn't be you. Hee-jun, you street punk, would it? Seeing Yi Hao and the others barge in, bandaged youth immediately started to cower, hiding behind Wenqing. But the sharp-eyed Yi Hao recognized him at a glance and immediately questioned him with disdain. Young Master Yi, do you know this kid? Lu Jinghing asked. TSK, this bastard is the son of our family's housekeeper. He's useless otherwise, but he's pretty good at picking up girls. This guy often secretly drives my luxury cars out to pretend to be a rich second generation, but in reality, he's a lowlife who can't even afford gas. Those girls see him often driving different luxury cars, dressed in fancy clothes, and spending $300 to $500 at Bayun Leather Goods City to give girls fake brand name bags and clothes. Those girls immediately go crazy, thinking they've met a wealthy heir. In reality, this guy is an unemployed vagrant who lives off his parents. Yi Hao glanced at Wenqing with a sneer, mocking her shamelessly. Chan Bo and Yang Hong finally understood why. After Hee-jun was shot in the head, he didn't call the police or go to the hospital immediately, but instead first demanded medical expenses from Yang Hong. It turned out he saw this as an opportunity to get rich. 300,000, compared to a rich second generation like Yi Hao, was just pocket money he'd give to a streamer in one night. But for Hee-jun, who couldn't even afford gas, that was undoubtedly a huge sum of money. If Chun Bo hadn't slapped Yuan Chao unconscious, he really would have succeeded. Impossible. How could the gifts Brother Jun gave me be fake? Every gift he gave me has a receipt. Brother Jun, they're all lying, aren't they? You didn't lie to me, did you? Wenqing found it hard to accept this fact and asked anxiously. With a brain like that, it's no wonder she gets scammed. Official receipts? I can easily get you 100 or so. Do you want them?
Ye Hao sniret disdainful.
Hee-jun, you little brat, you stole my G-Wagon, didn't you? I wondered why my G-Wagon was parked at the entrance of Zinduhui. And you dared to offend President Bo. You clueless fellow. Tomorrow I'll have your old man pack his bags and leave. Hee-jun, who had been hiding behind Wenqing, immediately panicked and quickly begged for mercy. Young Master Yi, I was wrong. I won't dare again. Our whole family relies on my dad's salary to live. If you fire my dad, we'll starve. It's none of my business if your whole family eats shit. In the face of undeniable facts, Wenqing's face turned pale. At this moment, she remembered all of Hee-jun's illogical actions during their relationship. The clothes Hee-jun gave her were always prepared in advance, and even the tags were cut off. Hee-jun's explanation was that it was a surprise for her. Moreover, Hee-jun had never taken her to a star-rated hotel for a room. Every time, they hastily finished things at a budget hotel. More than half of the room fees were paid by her. In most cases, she even paid for the condoms. Although Hee-jun often picked her up and dropped her off in different luxury cars, in most cases, Hee-jun had various excuses for her to pay for the gas first. She had once been suspicious, but each time, under Hee-jun's sweet talk, she was flattered into losing herself. Even with numerous doubts, she would proactively find excuses for Hee-jun and convince herself. Scumbag, you actually lied to me? Wenqing desperately raised her hand to slap Hee-jun's face. Unfortunately, before her palm could land on Hee-jun's face, Wenqing's hand was caught by Hee-jun and quickly flung away. When did I lie to you? I never said I was a rich second generation. It's you, a gold digger, who saw me driving a luxury car and actively latched onto me. You! You what? Don't look at me with the eyes of a victim. Don't you know what kind of person you are? Didn't you enjoy yourself when we were in the room? I'm also very tired, okay? Upon hearing this, Wenqing almost vomited blood on the spot from anger. Now she finally saw He-jun's true colors. The Prince Charming she had always been proud of, the one in her heart, turned out to be so shameless, despicable, and brazen. And she herself had become an object of ridicule because of him. In comparison, she realized how excellent Yang Hong was, the one who had always stayed by her side and whom she had considered a big fool. Yang Hong was not only a top student from a 985 and 211 university. He also managed to earn hundreds of thousands by doing business during his university years. Moreover, the Hermes bag he gave her was real. There is no harm without comparison. At this moment, when Qing's mental state collapsed, she desperately needed a simp to comfort her, to tell her that none of this mattered, that everything could start over. Yang Hong? When Qing tried to win back Yang Hong.
Yang Hong instinctively get.
From the moment you got out of that Mercedes, my heart for you had already died. From now on, we are completely over. Don't contact me again. Yang Hong's heart for Wenqing had died completely. Even after knowing that Wenqing and He-jun were having sex in the Mercedes, Yang Hong still held a glimmer of hope for Wenqing. But when Wenqing helped He-jun extort medical expenses from him, and even when he was publicly slapped and humiliated by Yuan Chao, this woman, whom he had pursued for many years and cherished as a treasure, didn't say a single word to help him. From that moment on, Yang Hong completely gave up all illusions about her. I also find it funny, when a man fulfills all your fantasies, anyone with a brain knows that person is definitely a liar. Heh, these green tea bitches just don't know their own limits, always wanting to hook up with a rich man. They deserve to be played. These gold diggers really think rich second generations are all fools. Is it that easy to become a young madame of a wealthy family? When Qing was being pointed at and talked about, every harsh word was like a sharp blade, leaving scars in her heart, making her bleed profusely. Finally, she completely broke down. Sitting on the ground, she wailed and cried. However, not a single person pitied her or comforted her. Even her good friend Fang Yingying, at this moment, moved away from her in disgust, eager to distance herself from her. Gentlemen, the misunderstanding has been cleared up, and I've returned the money. May we leave now? He-jun asked tremblingly. Besides Yuan Chao, who had already fainted, the two young men behind him were also terrified. Even an idiot could see that any one of the people here was someone they couldn't afford to offend. Yi Hao and the others all looked at Chun Bo, letting him make the decision. You can all scram except for him. Chun Bo pointed at the unconscious Yuan Chao. Chun Bo really couldn't be bothered to argue with trash like He-jun. It was pointless. Leaving Yuan Chao behind was simply to get more information about martial artists from him. Thank President Bo not bothering with you shows his generosity. If you just leave without showing any gratitude, then you're being disrespectful. He-jun was about to leave when Yi Hao and the others immediately stepped forward, and the group of rich second generations behind him immediately surrounded He-jun tightly. Chapter 111. President Bo? He-jun had been focused on avoiding Yi Hao earlier and hadn't noticed the address. President Bo. Only now did he react. Could it be the super tycoon who recently tipped a female streamer over 100 million on the internet? He-jun asked, startled and in fear. Otherwise, who else could command such respect from young Master Yi?
Ye Hao scoffed.
Having pretended to be a rich second-generation heir for years, He-jun worshipped genuine tycoons. He could name all the rich second-generation heirs who had just entered. He knew exactly what their families did, how much assets they had, and what experiences they had gone through, because these were all the capital he boasted about in front of people. The more a person desires something, the more he will focus his attention on that aspect. For example, a young man earning $3,000 a month who yearns to buy a car can thoroughly research every series and configuration of luxury brands like Porsche and Ferrari. Although these people can't even afford a car worth $100,000, they despise those who drive luxury cars worth $400,000 or $500,000. Because in their eyes, A car not exceeding 1 million isn't even considered a car. As someone who constantly monitored the movements of the wealthy circle, Hee-jun knew better than anyone what President Bo's name implied. He was a super tycoon who tipped over half a small goal in a single live stream, an idol in the hearts of how many rich second-generation heirs. Hee-jun almost peed himself instantly. President Bo, I was blind and didn't recognize your eminence. I truly didn't know this friend was your brother. I apologize to him, and I'll pay whatever medical expenses are needed. President Bo, can you please let me off the hook? Humph, it's truly a small knife cutting a butt, an eye-opener. Someone actually dares to mention money in front of President Bo. Does President Bo lack your paltry sum? A rich second-generation heir in the crowd yelled. Then how can President Bo forgive me? Originally, Chun Bo didn't want to bother with a scoundrel like Hee-jun. But Yi Hao and these people were showing him support, and it would be inappropriate if he didn't make a statement. Chun Bo suddenly flashed a mischievous smile, a good idea forming in his mind. Aren't you quite good at picking up girls? You must have more than one girl in your pond, right? How about this? You send each of them a WeChat message right now, telling them the truth about how you tricked them. If I find out you've left anything out, I guarantee you won't be able to stay in Yongqing anymore. This? Hee-jun looked troubled. What the hell? President Bo told you to send it, so send it. Are you still trying to bargain? The short-tempered Yi Hao roared coldly. I'll send it now. Hee-jun nodded subserviently. Before long, everyone finally understood why Hee-jun had seemed so troubled. Even this group of hedonistic, party-all-night second-generation heirs had the urge to beat Hee-jun up. This guy was simply a master of time management. There were 8 girls with whom he had established romantic relationships, and the number of girls he maintained through his rich second-generation persona surprisingly reached over 50. No wonder he could become a sea king. Most of these girls were gold diggers, just like Wenqing, easily attracted by Hee-jun's fake rich second-generation persona. Some girls, to please Hee-jun, even took out loans to provide him with spending money. If you fawn over one girl, you are that one girl's lapdog. But if you fawn over 100 girls simultaneously, then those 100 girls are your lapdogs. If Hee-jun hadn't used a fake persona to deceive these girls, Chun Bo would genuinely respect him as a man. Upon hearing this news, Wenqing, one of the fish in Hee-jun's pond, almost fainted from anger. President Bo is truly ruthless. He even thought of such a cruel idea. Hee-jun's reputation is ruined now. Who would dare to be with him anymore? This is good. President Bo has saved dozens of lost young women from the clutches of that scoundrel Hee-jun. Get lost. If we ever find out you're still swindling people, you'll be in for it. I'm leaving immediately. Hee-jun breathed a sigh of relief, didn't even glance at Wenqing, and scurried away with his 2 friends. Wenqing was greatly shocked by the power Chun Bo displayed, but since things had come to this, what face did she have left to stay here? Seeing Hee-jun flee, she also followed, slinking away. Holy crap, old Chun. When did you become so awesome? They're all calling you President Bo. Yang Hong finally dared to express his shock at this moment. Yang Hong was a person focused on his career, which meant making money. He had never been interested in the illusory world of the internet, so he naturally didn't know about President Bo's formidable reputation online. I was embarrassed to say it earlier, but I didn't expect the President Bo who made such an astonishing move online to be so young. President Bo, my name is Huang Junlong, and my family is in the building materials industry. I wonder if I could be friends with President Bo. Hello, President Bo. My name is Lu Meng, and my family operates hotels. We have hotels all over the country and even abroad. Hello, President Bo. My name is Long Xiaodong. Although I'm not as rich as them, if President Bo encounters difficulties within the system, I might be able to help a little. A group of rich second-generation heirs introduced themselves one after another in front of Chun Bo. Their postures were all very humble. Thank you, brothers, for showing me face. Tonight, I appreciate everyone supporting me. From now on, we are friends. If any of you need my help, just speak up. I'll pay for all expenses tonight. Feel free to call anyone you know who wants to come and have fun. Chun Bo said courteously. These people were usually arrogant and overbearing playboys, but since they were willing to lower themselves and actively show him goodwill, there was no reason to reject them. Reciprocity was appropriate. Moreover, he had already booked the entire Zindui for the night, and the money had already been spent, so it was a waste not to have fun. President Bo is mighty. President Bo is generous. President Bo, I actually do have something I need your help with. I wonder if it's convenient for you. Zhang Xinyang suddenly spoke. Chun Bo's heart instantly panicked. He was just being polite and you actually dared to ask. It's like this. I also own an MCN company, and it has several artists signed who have been in the live streaming industry. But after operating for half a year, they're still lukewarm. I'd like to use your online popularity to boost them and increase their fame. Chun Bo's heart instantly tightened. Damn it, only people bound to him could use the action fund. He also didn't know what kind of artists Zhang Xinyang's company had. Then Zhang Xinyang added another sentence. Of course, I won't let President Bo suffer any loss. All expenses incurred will be my responsibility. I just need to borrow President Bo's popularity and buzz. Upon hearing this, Chun Bo immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It's a small matter.
Chen Bo boasted.
Zhang Xinyang quickly provided a list of his company's artists. Chun Bo glanced at the list. Hey, there were actually 2 artists who were bound to his system. The last time he tipped Feng and in half a small goal, he bound over 100 people who harbored ill will towards him. He didn't expect it to come in handy here. Chapter 112. Chun Bo selected the 2 artists bound to the system from Zhang Xinyang's list. The 2 artists under Zhang Xinyang were named Long Kai and Yi Jiachi. Seemingly casual, Chun Bo's goal was actually very clear, because besides them, no one else could use the action fund. The reason Chun Bo gave Zhang Xinyang was to prioritize promoting 2 artists consistently. If he were to give gifts to all artists at the same time, it would dilute the traffic and popularity, resulting in half the effort for twice the work. Zhang Xinyang fully agreed with Chun Bo's plan. Then I'll trouble President Bo to give each of them 5 million. I'll have the finance department transfer 10 million to your account shortly. Giving 5 million to each streamer meant a total of 10 million was spent. On the surface, it seemed like a huge investment, but in reality, Zhang Xinyang didn't spend much money at all. According to the platform's gift-sharing rules, the platform and the streamer each get 50%. However, as an MCN company, the money spent on gifts for their streamers is not received by the streamers at all. It is all returned to the company. As an MCN company that cooperates with the platform only charges 20% to 30% in channel fees for gifts given by the company to its own artists, with the remaining portion also returned to the artist company. In other words, in this event, Zhang Xinyang seemingly spent 10 million on each person, but in reality, he only spent a maximum of 1.5 million. He could also leverage President Bo's unparalleled popularity to boost his own artists. Zhang Xinyang simply made a huge profit from this. If he were to invite popular celebrities or influencers to endorse his artists, it would cost at least 1 million in promotion fees. Although Chun Bo also wanted to collect some promotion fees, President Bo's status was too high. He really couldn't bring himself to ask. President Bo, who doesn't even care about a small target, asking for 1 or 2 million in promotion fees from others, wouldn't that be a slap in the face? Besides, tonight was precisely the time for him to expand his network. Moreover, Chun Bo already had a bold idea in his mind. The 10 million Zhang Xinyang spent on artists was paid by him, and he would return that 10 million to Chun Bo. In other words, he could use the system's action fund to pay the platform fees, and then pocket the 10 million returned by Zhang Xinyang. Chun Bo raised a sly smile, revealing his pale teeth. This was 10 million. Just thinking about it felt wonderful. But just as this thought appeared in Chun Bo's mind, the system's voice suddenly rang out. Warning host. This behavior constitutes illegal occupation and embezzlement of the action fund. Please exercise self-restraint, host, otherwise doom and destruction. Warning host. This behavior constitutes illegal occupation and embezzlement of the action fund. Please exercise self-restraint, host, otherwise doom and destruction. Warning host. This behavior constitutes illegal occupation and embezzlement of the action fund. Please exercise self-restraint, host, otherwise doom and destruction. The system issued 3 warnings in a row. Chunbo was instantly enraged. Damn it! This darn system, is it afraid that I will get a single penny from it? So far, besides a bunch of miscellaneous skills, Chunbo had not received a single penny from the system. The only valuable thing was that Lamborghini SVJ, and it couldn't even be sold. Chunbo found this system to be really stingy. Even the sports car obtained through the lottery was only worth about 10 million. If you're going to give something, why not give a supercar worth tens of millions, exceeding a small target? Chunbo cursed silently for several minutes before he barely managed to quell a bit of his anger. President Zhang, you're quibbling over a mere 10 million. It seems you don't consider me a friend.
Chenbo ritorted domeniringly.
Zhang Xinyang was stunned. The group of rich second generations was also stunned.
Mia?
10 million? They knew both words, but wasn't putting them together a bit excessive? Even Zhang Xinyang, with a fortune of several billion, dared not be so presumptuous. But thinking that this person was the legendary President Bo, a mere 10 million seemed quite normal. Good brothers settle accounts clearly. This is our company's expense for promoting our own artists. How can we let President Bo suffer a loss? Ahem. If President Zhang insists, then I can only say I'm sorry, I can't help. This isn't very good. What's the big deal? Just consider it me spending some money to flirt with girls. If I get together with your artists in the future, President Zhang, just don't object. How could we? As long as they don't harm the company's interests, we never interfere with an artist's private life. Ha ha! Chunbo smiled without speaking. That old fox Zhang Xinyang was quite slippery. Who doesn't know now that most MCN companies make money by exploiting their artists? If they really become famous, let alone dating, even their every word and action must be monitored by the company. Otherwise, they can sue you for harming the company's interests and make you pay a large sum in liquidated damages. Even if you are a first-tier star, you cannot escape their exploitation, such as the popular star Zhao XX. Even if you are sick, even if you are depressed, you must complete the tasks arranged by the company. Otherwise, you will have to compensate the company for its losses. But Chunbo would not sympathize with these female artists. Why would you sign with an MCN company? It's nothing more than wanting to use the company's resources to get what you want. When you become famous, it becomes inevitable for the company to use you to make money. Therefore, the relationship between the company and the artist is purely a commercial act, a mutual pursuit. Moreover, these artists' futures had nothing to do with him, so he naturally wouldn't care. What Chunbo was considering now was maximizing his own interests. Since Chunbo couldn't keep this money for himself, he might as well use it to expand his social connections. Building a good relationship with an old hand like Zhang Xinyang was all gain and no loss. On the other hand, the group of rich second generations, while outwardly respectful to him, still had doubts in their hearts. Was this man, who looked younger than them and wore no designer clothes, really President Bo himself? How could a man with such a D***CK image possess President Bo's imposing aura? In this day and age, scammers' methods are becoming more sophisticated, so it was inevitable for these rich second generations to have doubts. Only by showing them his strength in person could he completely convince them and make these second generations, who came from incredibly powerful families, become his subordinates. Anyway, he was spending money from the action fund, and he might even be able to rake in a wave of anger points. Zhang Xinyang's 2 female artists usually live-streamed on the Tiger Eye app. Coincidentally, he still had 100 million left to spend on the Tiger Eye app. After giving Feng and 50 million last time, he originally had 50 million left. Later, Chunbo used his free time to recharge another 50 million on the platform. A small target's worth of funds was enough to make this group of arrogant rich second generations prostrate themselves in admiration. The news of President Bo reserving the entire Xindehui and treating everyone to a happy time spread rapidly within the circle of the wealthy. More and more people came to Xindehui to pay their respects. Suddenly, the number of people at the originally quiet Xindehui KTV increased dramatically. Rows of luxury cars filled the parking lot outside. Even more beauties than usual who heard the news arrived, several times the normal number. Among them were many youthful and fashionable beauties. How could these beauties not know President Bo's name? Tonight, not only could they meet President Bo in person, but if they could gain President Bo's favor, it would be an instant rise to prominence. Chapter 113. He found a seat and sat down. Chun Bo took out the trifold screen phone Lu Fei had given him. He connected to the Wi-Fi. The platform's gift effects consumed a lot of data. He couldn't afford to waste his own mobile data. He tapped on the Tiger Eye app. Seeing the ID displayed on President Bo's phone, all the doubts in everyone's minds instantly vanished. It really is President Bo himself. Following the ID provided by Zheng Xinyang, Chun Bo searched and entered Long Kai's livestream. Having previously gifted Feng and 50 million, Chun Bo's account had long since reached the top tier, automatically activating the Super Emperor special effect. The moment Chun Bo entered, the Super Emperor special effect instantly maxed out, stunning the entire audience. Although there were thousands of President Bo accounts on the Tiger Eye app, the one with the Super Emperor special effect was, without a doubt, President Bo himself. Welcome, Great God President Bo, to Dragon Baby's live stream. Good evening, Great President Bo. Although Zheng Xinyang had already informed Long Kai that President Bo would be coming to her live stream, she couldn't help but be excited when President Bo actually arrived. Every streamer understood what the name President Bo signified. It's over, it's over. Long Long has been noticed by President Bo. Get ready for the storm. Haha. Long Long, you must hold on, unless you can't hold on. Great President Bo, quickly make an offer to Long Long. President Bo is generous. 1,000 cruise ships at least. President Bo is generous. Chun Bo's entry into the live stream immediately attracted everyone's attention, and they began to furiously spam the chat. At the same time, the number of viewers in Long Kai's live stream began to skyrocket, from an initial 3 to 500 to several thousands, and there was no sign of it stopping. These people were all drawn by President Bo's reputation. Chun Bo glanced at Long Kai in front of the camera. She was indeed good-looking. No wonder those who harbored ill will towards him were targeting her. The system had given her a score of 92. But among the female streamers Chun Bo had seen, her beauty on camera could rank in the top 3. Of course, this was all thanks to the beauty filters. The real her certainly couldn't compare to Lin Ruoshi. President Zheng's eye for talent is truly sharp. The beauties under his wing are all stunning. And this Long Kai has the potential to become incredibly popular. Not bad, not bad. She'd probably still outshine many even without the beauty filter. No wonder President Zhang took notice of her and spared no expense to make her famous. What's the use of making her famous? In the end, won't she just become President Bo's prey? Haha. The group of rich second-generation heirs standing behind Chun Bo began to discuss. This time, Chun Bo didn't make any demands of Long Kai, because this time it was mainly about giving face to Zheng Xinyang, and making demands of her publicly would somewhat affect her public image. President Bo, what do you want Long Long to do for you this time? It's no fun for us if you don't make any demands. Exactly. We like to see that unruly, arrogant President Bo. Chun Bo ignored the rapidly scrolling barrage of comments. A playful smile lifted the corners of his mouth. He skillfully opened the gift interface. The luxurious cruise ship special effect instantly filled the entire screen. Thank you, President Bo, for the luxurious cruise ship. Thank you, Great President Bo. Although she knew it was a company-arranged ranking boost, Long Kai still responded to President Bo with her sweetest smile. In the few seconds that Long Kai was thanking Chun Bo had already sent out 10 luxurious cruise ships. A familiar sent, a familiar recipe. A cruise ship storm, seemingly déjà vu yet always stunning, officially arrived. Here it comes, here it comes. President Bo's continuous, unlimited gift package. Although I've experienced it several times, each time it still leaves me incredibly shocked. Who else? Who else can be more extravagant than President Bo? I really don't understand the world of the super rich. President Bo, does your family need a dog? One that can speak human language. President Bo, begging online, please take me with you. The chat in the live stream exploded with comments. The number of online viewers quickly surpassed 10,000. And it was still rapidly increasing. However, the most shocked were undoubtedly the rich second-generation heirs who were watching Chun Bo send gifts in person. They had once suspected that President Bo's extravagance was merely a marketing ploy, a persona created by a large institution or multiple institutions working together. Even Principal Wang couldn't endure sending gifts like a normal person, but at this moment, all their doubts and criticisms vanished completely. They were replaced by worship and reverence. The key was that Zhang Xinyang had proactively offered to cover all expenses, but President Bo had rejected it without a second thought. What did this prove? It proved that in President Bo's eyes, this amount of money was like a single yuan in the eyes of an ordinary person, not worth mentioning. If you dared to mention it, it meant you were looking down on him. How extravagant! How exaggerated! He was simply inhumanly rich. Long Kui in the live stream was dumbfounded. Watching President Bo send gifts in someone else's live stream and having him send gifts in her own live stream were two completely different concepts. Even though she knew she wouldn't receive a single cent from the gifts President Bo sent, the scene was still incredibly shocking and absolutely spectacular. If she knew that all this money was sent by President Bo personally and that she would get her rightful share, her little heart would probably not be able to handle it at this moment. No matter what demands President Bo made, she would immediately agree. Half an hour later, everyone present was as if under a freezing spell, staring at Chun Bo in a daze. Some were almost unable to restrain themselves, ready to kneel and call him Daddy. President Bo, I accept your kindness. From now on, your business is my business. As long as you speak, I will not hesitate. But can you please stop first? You've already sent over 10 million in gifts. Zhang Xinyang smiled foolishly while trying to stop Chun Bo from sending more gifts. With 10 million in gifts thrown in, Long Qi was completely boosted. In just half an hour, she had gained over 300,000 followers. As long as they seized the opportunity for further promotion, Long Kai's account would reach at least 3 million followers. His goal had been achieved. However, the debt of gratitude owed to Chun Bo was too great to repay. Initially, he had indeed wanted to leverage President Bo's popularity and reputation to boost the popularity of the artists under his company, and at the same time, test whether President Bo's strength was as extravagant as rumored. Half an hour, 10 million in gifts. This was enough to prove everything. This was almost equivalent to the value of a luxury mansion in the center of Yangqing City. At this moment, he was utterly convinced of President Bo's strength and resolved to firmly cling to this influential figure. President Zhang, you exaggerate. It's just sending gifts. It's better to benefit our own sister. Chun Bo spoke with an air of calm indifference. But these words, heard by the crowd, were filled with an aura of kingly dominance. Look, just look. This is what a true super-rich person is. 10 million in gifts in his eyes was simply not worth mentioning. Everyone at this moment, besides worship, felt nothing but worship for Chun Bo. Because this time there was no public animosity, the anger value received was only a little over 600 points. The current anger value had reached 4,080 points. He now had 4 chances to draw a prize. At the same time, 5 more individuals who harbored ill will towards him were bound. Chun Bo didn't know who they were, but what did it matter as long as he could generate anger value? After sending another 100 luxurious cruise ships, the anger value stopped increasing, and Chun Bo finally stopped. At the same time, he entered the live stream of another artist, Yi Jiaqi. President Zhang, I'm tired. It's your turn this time. He suddenly remembered that Yuan Chao, the thunderous hand, was still in the private room. Instead of sending gifts at this time, he might as well ask Yuan Chao about the secrets of martial artists.